Thank you so, so much for doing this today. This is part of our Women on Women series, talking to all different women in all different industries and sectors. And I was particularly keen to talk to you because you've had a really interesting journey. So, introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Georgina Steele. I work at Tractable as a senior software engineer, where I'm focused on one of our products called estimating, where I'm looking at making sure it's scalable and stable as it scales. We've experienced like really rapid growth recently, and it's an AI product, so there's a lot of interesting challenges around scalability. Alongside that, I do quite a lot of work mentoring, particularly like helping support women into the industry from
Brilliant.
non-traditional backgrounds, so not computer science degrees.
With the mentoring and the people that come from not sort of your standard background,
Yeah.
is there a pattern of where people tend to come from, or is it literally from anything? What do you
I mean,
find?
I think it comes from anything. I think like there have been people who've done like English degrees or like history who then switch into like wanting to go down the software route. A lot of people go through like the boot camp.
Prior to that it's not sort of you see a higher volume of scientists or mathematicians, or it could be
No,
anything.
like I feel like software lends itself well to a huge variety of skills. Like if you're from a kind of sciencey maths background, I feel like the connection is much more obvious.
Yeah,
But I think like if you have a creative background, that is so useful in our industry. Like
yeah.
able to picture and visualize and put things together like that, and like we're designing all of these interfaces to have like some amount of creativity.
Yeah. So I interrupted you. Tell me about what you did prior to this. Where was your kind of start and how did you move into it?
So I studied mechanical engineering at Cambridge.
Wow.
The only software, or didn't even do software, like okay, the only coding that we did was like a few lectures that were taught on a blackboard,
Right.
maybe like 2 weeks of practicing ish, like 1 hour a week. When I graduated, I started working for McLaren in their Formula One team. I was a structural
Just drop that in there. You
designer.
worked for who? Who did you work for? I worked for McLaren, Formula One team. Yes, that's
Yeah.
what she might dropped. How did that happen?
I applied for their graduate scheme and ended up getting fished out of like that pool of graduates into a permanent role. So I started as a structural design engineer. It really like suited a lot more of my interests and like the things that I had studied at university. So the
Was
role,
there many women in the pool that you were in at that time?
I don't know how many women applied, but
Okay.
I was the fourth female engineer.
Of how many? Millions.
I got 200.
That's insane, isn't it?
So then I got offered this job where I was going to be a structural design engineer. So kind of looking at the part design of the parts of the car,
Right.
applying forces that they would see on the racetrack, making sure they were lightweight and wouldn't break and had the right structural properties. So I started kind of analyzing bigger and bigger parts of the car. And then alongside that, I started looking at the methodologies we were using. So like what were the processes we're using to analyze these components, what are the best practices that we can apply to them, and like can anything be automated.
Right.
But like before we got to that stage, I started doing like writing a few scripts, and I set up like this Python lunch and learn where free
Yes.
lunches to do like I think it's like a Harvard free online course that I did. There were like three of us who would do it together. I was basically like, anyone in my team want to do this? We're gonna get free lunch for it.
Come on. Brilliant.
I'd like send out weekly emails with some like Python snake pun or meme on them being like, guys,
That is
just a
genius.
reminder. So I had a kind of buddy slash mentor when I joined McLaren, and he really pushed for me to start doing like these automated scripts. And I think like seeing it in
Brilliant.
practice and seeing it applied, and also like the mental challenge is something that really like appealed to
Puzzle
me.
solving goes back to that puzzle solving, right?
Yeah,
And also,
exactly.
I think you're right. If you can't see the application, it's just random code on a board. It just
Like,
doesn't mean anything, does it?
like it's all well and good teaching people these algorithms like bubble sort and stuff, but like not being able to see where that's going to be used, I don't think that really excites kind of undergraduate, right? So I carried on like making bigger tools for the team to use, like for their kind of structural analysis processes. Seeing the value that that was driving is really exciting.
Yeah.
And then what happened was we all started working from home in 2020. When that happened, then the software team was like, "Oh, we'll just wait a few weeks until we're all back in the office because it would be a much better learning when we're
Right.
in the office."
Yeah. It's like, okay, we're still waiting.
Yeah, I think Formula One were obviously like a bit slow to react to COVID. That Australian Grand Prix started,
Yeah.
but the race never began because they were like, actually, we should not do this. And that's when pretty much the whole of Formula One went on furlough. That 2 months for me was actually really beneficial. Like, obviously, it was intimidating at first to be on furlough, and like furlough
Yeah.
for everyone
Scary and all
wasn't
those things.
supposed to
Yeah.
be. Yeah, so that first month, I kind of took it as I just need a break, I need to relax. And then the second month, it was I'm going to find what I really love doing and I'm going to apply for a job. I literally just cold reached out on LinkedIn, messaging
Good for
people,
you.
can we
Yeah.
do a Zoom call? Can we just chat about what you do and kind of like what you like about your job, basically?
Yeah.
So I went into looking at product management, and then someone was like, what about data science? And I started looking at data science.
It is like a rabbit hole, I think,
There's
because
the option.
people so many options, and I think people don't realize how many options. Because even for us, we're like, oh, we recruit in software engineering
Yeah.
and software development, and people are like, oh, okay, what do they do? I'm like, many things. There's many. It's multi. It's so multifaceted. It depends on the industry. It depends on the job you're doing. Depends
Yeah.
on, and even within those things, you can be the same developer in a different company, and it's a totally different job.
Like quite a lot from my experience at McLaren into like
Yeah.
what I want from a job and what I want from a company. And especially
So
going
did you have a tick list in your mind? You were like, I want
in
this,
my
this, this,
mind,
this.
like wrote everything down on paper, especially like going into a company like McLaren as a graduate. I knew exactly like what it takes to train a graduate up well. And then that was going to be a similar transition when I moved into software because
Yes.
I'm starting from nothing really. I haven't built any full software. I've just built script. Like I knew what was required to help train me. I knew I
Yeah.
was interested in like that fast-paced changing environment that Formula One offers. So that kind of means startup. So I had to be quite fussy about like what startup, because obviously like they need the resources and they need the capacity to be able to train someone who,
Yes.
because I had like quite a long checklist, I had the opportunity to work in Formula One. So I knew like I want to work with advanced technologies. I want to work with a company that's like at the top of their game. I want to work with a fast-paced company. And then like all the cultural aspects, like do they have the patience to train a junior? Like are they kind? Which I don't.
That is one of those key questions. It's
Yeah.
funny because I was talking to someone about this the other day and I was describing a hiring manager and I said, the thing is, he's really kind. And the
Yeah.
guy started laughing and I was like, that for me, that's got to be up there in your top three. Do you know what I mean?
So I started on like quite small tickets, like just trying to get a feel for things, and then building like passes, for instance, not hugely complex tasks, like quite simple, nicely self-contained. And then we just
Did
started.
you have you said you had a mentor assigned to you at McLaren. Did you have a similar thing here?
So I had this guy Pepe, who's still in Tractable as well.
Right.
Um, he was like fully looking after me, and like so when I joined Tractable, it was at like one of the highest stress deliveries that we'd had.
Wow.
And everyone was super busy, but they still like made time for me. My first project was like mapping out the architecture that we have on one of the products, uh,
Right.
and then give a presentation on that. And that was super useful because it gave me like a broad overview of like how
Of
things
how it
fit
works. Yeah.
together.
Yeah, of
And then
course.
we went into like small coding tasks from there.
How many females do you have in your team now? Is it a lot?
So I started in the customer engineering team where I was the only woman.
Right.
But now I'm in the estimating team, so it's a product team where we're mainly women. I know.
Yes,
But when I switched over into estimating, it was the first time I've actually worked directly with women in my career.
that's mental.
My plan is to move into management, and I want to go up the ladder and like end up hopefully at one day CTO. That's my plan.
Absolutely, yes.
And I think in order to do that well, I need to have experienced different like domains. So I
Yes.
want to work in
You
a
have to have
product.
an understand. You have to have an understanding, don't you, of what
Yeah,
everybody does, and
yeah,
also the challenges and the beauty of everyone's different departments and how they interlink. Makes sense.
yeah. So I wanted experience working in a product team.
You're speaking and mentoring to people all the time. So say for example, I've got a teaching degree and I'm thinking I want to be a software engineer. What do I do first?
I think it's important to do what I did first, like talk to a lot of people, try and find out like what the role really entails,
Yeah,
um, and like get an understanding of kind of which area perhaps. So like, do you want to go
yeah,
into software engineering, or is it maybe data science that you're more interested in? Because I don't think until you start speaking to people in the industry, I don't think it's that well known. I think
yeah.
if you send a nice message, people tend to be like a bit flattered and will hopefully reply. Like,
Yeah, I think people are frightened of it, but actually if you tone it right and you're polite and you're genuine,
and
people
like,
genuinely,
yeah, and what's the worst that's going to happen? Someone's not going to reply to you.
yeah,
Once you have like a base level of like understanding of each role, then
yeah.
maybe start doing like some smaller courses. So like Open University offers some really good free ones.
They do. I'll put a link for that on here as well so people can check
Yeah,
that out, because I've looked at those before and I think they are a really good starting point and you can do them at your own pace so you can
exactly.
commit as much or as little
Yeah.
as you want. It's true.
And then
It's
some
true.
of the American universities put a lot of like their lecture videos online for free as well. Oh, can I just add
Yeah.
one more thing?
Yes, please. I want you to.
I think there's like three main ways to enter the industry. And this is what I discovered by speaking to people when I was like starting off. There's either go and do a boot camp, um, and like get your knowledge from there. And typically, a boot camp will help you apply for jobs as well.
Yeah.
Another way is to do a master's course. What I found when I was speaking to people was that master's course doesn't necessarily like offer the same value that a boot camp would, because in a boot camp you're like constantly creating these projects and like building things from end to end, whereas
Yeah.
a masters it wasn't. Then it depends on masters of course, but like they're not necessarily like as applied. And then the third,
I think that's true. I think most
yeah,
people would say that's true as well. And actually, masters in general, and not just specifically in this, but they tend to be, a lot of it's theoretical as opposed to applied. Not again, like you said, not all, but some.
yeah. And then the
Yeah.
third way is just to like do what I did.
Beg to get in somewhere.
Beg to get in somewhere, hope someone like understands the potential you have. I think like if you ask the right questions and you show that you have like the knowledge of I need to be able to learn, and like are you actually
And
going to
also,
provide
but
that
also that
environment
you've
for me?
researched. You'd
Yeah,
researched what
exactly.
it is you needed. You understood the work you were going to need to put in to progress.
What I really enjoy about software is that every problem is unique and you have to approach it in like a slightly different way each time. And I didn't find like I got that from traditional engineering. I think what I learned most about being at McLaren was really like what things I value.
As I said to you, which I hadn't recorded, but I'll say it now, I put my headset on because today I'm in the office and there's others around, but also it was partly so that I felt like I was in Formula One.